Back in action after a long break.
Growing up on the water with fishing in their blood, Matt Arey and Bryan Thrift have spent the last 10 years competing against the biggest names in professional bass fishing. Their success has landed them ranked among the top anglers in the world. If you're looking to become a better angler, then this show has all the answers. Join us and follow along to get actionable tips, tactics, and tried and true techniques directly from the pros. Welcome to Let's Talk Fish.
All right, y'all. So, and Brad Johnson, I'm right there with you, man. I missed y'all. I have missed y'all something awful. It has been, what, Jeff, 5 weeks?
It's been a minute. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been more than 2
minutes or
2 weeks.
Months.
It's been a while. It's probably been 5
All right,
or 6 weeks.
So,
maybe.
as y'all can see, my wonderful co-host, Mr. Thrift, I actually passed him on I-20 coming back from Lake Fork day before yesterday. What's today? See, that's what happens when you have a tournament every other week. You forget what day it is. You forget what month it is. You forget the time. You forget it all. But I figured we owed it to y'all. So Jeff and I talked earlier yesterday. Said we got to get back in the studio and catch up on a few things. We got to get back in the studio and give the fans and the viewers and everybody a little bit of update on what's going on. Obviously, it's tournaments, and more tournaments. So the elite schedule this year is like tournament, week off, tournament, week off, tournament, week off. And then we have back-to-backs in New York. And then we're done. By the end of July, we are done. So we go to Neely Henry next week. I leave Sunday. I'll come back home for about 6 days after that, go back to Lake Guntersville, come home, head back for the Toyota Texas Bass Classic, but we go back for the Bassmaster Classic, Ray Roberts, first week of June. Then we actually have a couple-week break finally, and then we will be in New York back-to-back, and we will be done, finished, knock on wood, by the end of July. So looking forward to that, and we got a lot of good tournaments coming up, but we've got a lot of tournaments that we've had. I don't even remember what all we haven't talked about. I'm here to answer any questions about any of the tournaments in the past couple weeks as far as the Elite Series is concerned. I know Thrift had a good finish in Raleigh at the BPT stop up there, so congrats to him for that. And but we'll back up to like the Sabine River. By the way, we have, if you see everything laid out in front of me, it's getting that time of year to where it's a shad spawn's heating up, the bass spawn, we're starting to move towards the tail end of that. Pretty much all over the southeast now. Topwater bites heating up. So we got a great giveaway sponsored by Lunker Hunt and Lunker Text. These are some deals that have run through Lunker Text over the past, month or so, couple weeks, Jeff?
Yeah, a couple weeks.
Weeks. A few leftover items. We're going to run some more deals with the Fetch. A lot of you are very familiar with the Fetch. We're giving away 3 packs of Fetches tonight, 4 packs of the Bait Shifter, the Big Shad Imitation soft bait from Lunker Hunt, and the Lunker Hunt Turbine. We're giving away 3 of those. That's the new Clack and Buzz bait that we launched last year with Lunker Hunt. So got a great giveaway. Also have a hat and a shirt from Angler's Choice Marine, who is a title sponsor of this show. And at the end of the show, we got a trivia question. You're going to like this trivia question. They're going to love this trivia question. And I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody.
Don't say anything else about it because you're going to give the
No,
answer
no.
away.
I'm not going to give the answer away. If the answer is not correct,
that sweet tart.
You can have that sweet tart. This is my last sweet tart, but you can have it.
Is it your last one?
That's how much I like you, Jeff. You can have my last sweet tart.
Of them.
Yeah. So the trivia question, the answer to the trivia question, Jeff came up with the answer. He figured out the answer. So if it's wrong for any reason whatsoever, it's not my fault tonight. We're going to go ahead and throw that out there. All right. Yeah, thanks, Eli. Yeah, and you know, Scott, if anybody knows my roommate, I room with the Scotts, Scott Canterbury and Scott Martin. Okay, that's our group. That's our running group this year. Then we have some extras. We have Scott's. Scott's. I call them minions because it pisses them off. But we have McCoy.
They're pretty funny, though.
And Jake, Scott's son, oldest son, Jake. And then we have a new cameraman, Dylan, who's doing an awesome job. Big shout out to Dylan. And they run around with us too. So there's actually 6 of us in these houses, but it can get downright funny at times. If you follow Scott Martin's YouTube channel, you've seen that. probably over the past few tournaments. We do have a good time with that crew, but it can get a little crazy at times. But to Mr. Eli's point, Scott, it was his idea. So at the Sabine River, he made a bet. We made a $10 bet. Whoever won the bet, they had to sign a $10 bill and hand it over to the winner. And I'm pretty sure I recall him making that same bet at Lake Fork, but I still hadn't seen that $10. So I'm still waiting to put
Doubled up on it?
that second $10 bill on my wall at home. I've got a $10 bill signed by Thrift and Wheeler, and now I've got a $10 bill signed by Scott Martin. So I'm just gonna start. I'm gonna roll.
Do that every tournament.
I need to do that every tournament. Pick somebody out. But I mean, I'm gonna lose a bunch of $10 bills, but I'm gonna get me a bunch. I'd like to have a trophy wall of $10 bills. Wouldn't that be cool? Be kind of cool. You know how some of the bars just staple them up over top the bar and people draw pictures on them and stuff like that? I might draw their faces on them or something. Well, y'all come up with something creative I can draw on those $10 bills. Sabine River, very, very interesting fishery. It is the only this is the second time I've ever been to a fishery where I've caught like redfish, caught sheep's head, I didn't catch a flounder. I caught an alligator gar. Did I tell you that, Jeff? I caught my first alligator gar. Like 150, I didn't catch it. It caught me, and it got off. I didn't actually land it. It was the scariest bite I've ever had in my life. So if anybody's familiar with the Sabine River, it's super shallow, somewhat treacherous, but it's a very unique fishery. Got a lot of different options there, a lot of water to cover, but it's primarily all shallow. And I was up in a little bitty cut in the back of a bayou, 2 feet deep in the middle of this deal on high tide, okay? A foot deep on the bank where I was flipping. Frogging and flipping is basically what I did the whole tournament. And I flipped up on the bank, and you'd think you'd see a fish that was 7 feet long and 1.5 feet wide across his back sitting in a foot of water. But I felt the most ferocious bite I've ever felt. And what's wrong, Jeff?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Everybody's sending stars, and I don't know what's happening.
You look really, really confused.
No,
there's all kinds of new things going down on Facebook, and I think it's confusing, Jeff. But it was this fish bit, and it just started. I set the hook, and I obviously never even got a hook in it, but it started swimming out towards the boat, and I saw it, and it literally looked like a dinosaur. It was 100 and something pounds and probably 6 to 7 feet long. And all of a sudden, my bait popped out of its mouth, reeled my bait in, and I didn't even pin it. I didn't even get the hook through that fish's mouth at all. And this thing was, I've caught a lot of gar over the years, but I've never hooked one of these true alligator gars. And
you caught an alligator?
I have caught an alligator.
I have too.
I have caught an alligator, yeah. I haven't caught an alligator gar. We won't talk about it because it's technically, I don't think it's legal to target alligators with a rod and reel. Unless it's in season.
Not what I meant, but.
Yes, I've caught some on purpose. 100%. Ernie Wallace said the same thing. What's up with the stars?
I don't know.
Craig Land said they're giving y'all money. I don't think stars stand for money.
Is it?
I doubt it.
I don't know.
Surely to goodness they're not throwing dollar bills at us. Are they, Jeff? You don't know what they're for, do you?
I don't know. I think it is actually.
This is all new to us. Everyone got stars.
I think it's money.
Everyone's got stars. I don't have my $10 bill with me. Somebody asked that earlier. I didn't bring
it's
my
$10 for
$10 bill.
every star.
Penny for every star.
We should be retired by the end of the show.
Yeah, we'll have at least $12. But Sabine River. Any questions about the Sabine River? Y'all shoot them in. I'm watching the feed. Jeff's watching the feed. But when I got to Sabine, I had done a lot of research, and obviously historically, there's Taylor's Bayou, Cow and Adams. They're closer to the ramp. Obviously, the fish around the ramp played a big role. The Sabine River played a big role this time. That's where Jason Christie ended up winning the event. Houston, Brock Mosley was leading the tournament after the first day, making a 100-something mile one-way trip, 200-mile round trip to Houston. And that there was a lot of options there. We could not go into Louisiana waters, which made it a little tricky. And you would be surprised how small the Sabine fish is when you look at the fishable water there. Our guys, it never fails. They always tend to find the same areas because a lot of good anglers out there, obviously, they find the best water over 3 days of practice. But very unique fishery. I ended up spending a lot of my time in Cow Bayou. I spent a little bit in Adams. I probably should have spent more right there close to Orange. Adams and Cow are close to Orange, but I'm talking about the main channel right there close to Orange. This is how bad that fishery was. I had a limit every day for 3 days for just right at 21 pounds, I think it was. 20 pounds, 15 ounces maybe. Basically 7 pounds a day average, and finished 36th in the event. Okay, that's just to catch 5 keepers there was a task, and to get a 2.5 pound bite was key every day. I mean, the first day I weighed in 712 and I had a 2.5 pounder, and I had 712 now. Some other 4 weighed 5 pounds. Okay, and a pound and a quarter keeper there is actually a solid keeper. Yeah. A 12-incher there only weighs 13, 14 ounces. So you could catch 5 keepers there. I saw 5 bass limits down there that weighed 4 pounds and some change. So that was and that's not a terrible day on the Sabine. There's guys that go out there and catch 20 or 30 keepers, and they have 5.5 pounds. And there are guys that go out there and catch 20 or 30 bass, and they don't even have a 12-inch keeper. So, and I wasn't getting a lot of bites. Nobody was getting a ton of bites that I knew of. I'd catch about 10 to 12 fish a day, maybe 15, 6, 7, 8 keepers a day, 6 or 7, 8 short fish a day. First day, I was actually throwing a frog, a popping frog, full-size popping frog, and my marshal that was with me, it was a young kid, high school fisherman, great kid, very nice, and I caught the first fish I caught on a frog that morning. I was excited, man. It was a 13-incher. It was a keeper. And I flipped it in the boat, and he looked at me, and he was like, "That's the smallest fish I've ever seen caught on a frog." And I was like, "Thanks." You know what he say? And I said, actually, I told him, I said, "Just wait." I said, "Just wait." And I put that one in the box, and I was jacked, man. I had a keeper pretty early. The next 2 fish I caught on a frog were, I think, right at 10 inches, 9 3/4 to 10 inches, and 11.5 inches. The next 2 fish that I caught on a full-size frog. So I beat my personal best like 3 times the first day on my smallest fish ever caught on a frog. I saw a question pertaining to the Sabine earlier from Kenneth Chu. Let's see. He said, any thoughts on Brock Mosley suddenly showing up on day 4 in an area other contenders were fishing all 4 days? Now, I'm unaware of what went down there. I'm not sure where Brock was even fishing on day 4. I know he fished in Houston the first couple days, and that kind of carried in the distance, that 15-pound bag he had and that 11 or 12-pound bag that he weighed in. I know that Brock was more or less out of fish. I think that's what I think he made that pretty public, so he had to come up with an alternate game plan. Elaborate on that, Kenneth, because I'm unaware of where he ended up fishing and who he was fishing near. I watched a little bit of the live coverage that day, but I didn't see, when I saw him fishing, he was fishing a bayou, and I'm not sure where it was, and he was frogging the majority of the day, and I didn't see him around any other competitors on that final day. That's just from the footage I saw on live. Now, if you saw him close to the ramp, a lot of guys bailed on their fish after 2 or 3 days and fished those release fish right around Orange there. And Seth Fodder did that. He caught a couple, a pretty solid limit there the last day, if I'm not mistaken, right beside takeoff there, just up from takeoff. So a lot of guys ended up bailing on the primary areas just for the lack of whether it was tide related, wind related, or they were just out of fish, or they didn't feel good about it or whatever. So they ended up changing their game plans and moving to a new area. But let me know, Kenneth, on exactly what you're talking about. I'm looking for your response here, because I did not notice him fishing around a bunch of other competitors on day 4. And I know Brock pretty well. I don't think he would do anything like that intentionally to make anybody else mad. So. But yeah. Let me know what you're referring to. Taylor Lawson said you should have spent more time in Taylor's Bayou. Well, Taylor, there maybe so, but there was not a single top 10 made out of Taylor's Bayou that I'm aware of. Could have been, but a lot of guys spent a lot of time over there. I know guys that caught them there in the past too that said it was a lot different this time, whether the water was a lot more stained up. I know. No, my roommate Canterbury, the first day, he was fishing in an area way up the Neches River. And I had practiced in the Neches. I had practiced in Cal. I had practiced up the Sabine a little bit. I had practiced around the ramp. I had practiced in Adams. Unfortunately, 2.5 to 3 days of practice, as much water as there is to cover there, you just can't cover all of it. But the Taylor's did not seem to be firing really good while we were there for me. I had to go where I was able to get the most bites, and my whole approach to that tournament was maximizing my fishing time too. I looked at the wind and things like that, and the wind had a major effect. What happens in tidal water And a lot of guys don't realize this when they're fishing tidal water, especially if you don't have a lot of experience fishing tidal water. But you have to watch what we call wind tides. Jeff's probably very familiar with this because he's a redfish guy. But when you get a hard, depending on where you are, it could be south, could be east, could be west, whatever it is, you get a hard wind that blows 15 to 20 mile an hour in the same direction for a couple days, it can keep that high tide way higher, or it can keep that low tide way lower for a longer period of time. And we experienced that during our event. So it got a little bit tricky during the tournament on how to make adjustments and how to adapt throughout the event. The fish, I did learn a lot about the Sabine River and how those fish relate to the tide down there, and I think sometimes we make it a little bit more complicated than it is. A lot of those fish are always in those same areas. They move a little bit based on tide, but they just act differently based on tide, and that's one thing I learned. You may have to change your approach. You may have to fish a little further off the bank with a moving bait. On a super low tide, you may have to fish a little bit tighter and start, pick up a flipping stick on a super high tide. But the fish don't seem to move very far. It's just a matter of how you decide to try to catch them. What your approach is, what your technique is. So that was a frog, and a flipping bait. A little crawl, a little creature bait was my two main deals at the Sabine. I know both my roommates were flipping primarily. I did catch one or two key fish on a square bill. I know Scott Martin ended up catching quite a few fish on a swim jig, but he was flipping mostly also. I saw a lot of questions, and I saw this on Scott's social. If you saw his recap of the Sabine, and you noticed his flipping rig had a tungsten sinker, and mine was very similar. And I actually got this information from Scott Martin about this rig, but I'm gonna let it out there because that's what we do on Let's Talk Fish. If you saw, a lot of you guys may know about the clackety clack, so to speak. But you take we were using a glass bead. We would put I was pegging my weights. I would use a 5/16 ounce or a 1/4 ounce Titan tungsten sinker, and then I would thread on a small red glass bead. Okay, and then I would tie my hook on, my straight shank flipping hook. And what that tungsten weight and that glass bead does, especially in those brackish water fisheries where there's a lot of crabs and things like that, it ticks, makes a little sound. And it seemed to help me get way more bites. And Scott will tell you the exact same thing. I think Canterbury was doing it some. I think he was catching some fish on some different assortment of topwater baits also. But that little red bead was definitely a key down there fishing around the Sabine. And that seems to work anywhere there's brackish water and there's a crab population. Those bass will feed on shrimp, they'll feed on crabs, they'll feed on whatever they can get, whatever they can gain access to in that brackish water. So they eat a lot of different things in the brackish water. All right, let's get to some more questions. Doug Garrett, I see one about Lake Fork. We'll get to that in just a second about glide baits because we will talk about that for sure. Okay, so Kenneth said that's where he was near Fodder. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, so Fodder was just fishing release fish right there around the ramp. On day 4, everything I saw him catch was right there close to the ramp in Orange. No big secret, nobody's personal water. Guys do that all the time on day 4, especially if they're running out of fish. They'll start right there close to the ramp, and then a lot of times they end up doing really well. And I call them release fish. There's a lot of fish that just live in that area also, but there's a lot of tournaments that go out of Orange and a ton of bass that are released there. And Bass Master sets an off limits. As long as you're outside of that off limits, you can be 10 feet outside that off limits and fish all day long if you want to. So I'm not a big fan of fishing release fish, but it's something that we all have to do sooner or later because it just you got to play the game. You got to play the game, and you got to use every advantage you can to try to do the best you can, and that's just what it takes. But there was a lot of fish caught right there within about probably 500 yards of the ramp in Orange on the final day. Any more questions? I see that read, Carl Fidley. He said keep those hooks out of your mouth. So if anybody saw my post on Instagram while I was at the Sabine River, I did take a treble hook to the mouth, and I actually talked about it on stage there. But what I did is it's funny. It's kind of a funny story because we probably wouldn't have time for a show tonight if Thrift was here because we got so many things that's happened over the past 4 to 5 weeks that we wouldn't have time to talk about it all. But I took a treble hook to the lip, and a couple things I learned, is my dentist told me years ago to quit biting fishing line, and obviously I didn't listen. Scott Martin, my roommate, we were fishing the same bayou, and he caught a couple behind me on a little square bill. And I didn't have this specific type crankbait, and I went over there and I said, hey, I said, man, you got another one of them? I want to throw one around in practice, see if it works in other areas. And obviously they like that specific type, color, whatever. Yeah, I got another one, man. I got another one. And he tossed me one. It had a little bit of line left on the line tie there. And I went to bite the line tie with my teeth, and one of the treble hooks on the crankbait was turned upside down and hooked on the bill. You know how kind of they kind of foul up sometimes? And when I went to rip that little knot out of the line tie, the treble hook just went right down through my bottom lip and got me pretty good. And it bled, and it looked horrible for a couple of days. And then now you can't even tell anything happened. You know, everybody told me your lips heal really fast. But what I did, if anybody ever cuts yourself open like that on your lip, you can't put a Band-Aid on it or anything like that. It's your lip, you know.
Super glue it.
Well, that's what everybody says, super glue, but there's way better stuff than super glue. Get you some of that liquid Band-Aid.
That's super glue.
No, it's not.
Liquid
No, it's not. It's not super glue. Super glue is not. It's also an antiseptic, so it was great. Yeah. That stuff was great. That liquid Band-Aid was great, and we're all healed up, so we're good to go now. It did hurt, though. It's not a good place to get a hook. I've had a hook in several places, but your lip sucks. Now I know what a bass feels like. It's just not a good place. I mean, they'd probably rather be hooked in the tail or something, along with myself. But anyway, I'd rather be hooked in the back or something than my lip.
I'd probably just not rather be hooked.
Well, I mean, sometimes we just don't have an option. We just things happen. Things happen. All right, so we will switch over to Lake Fork. Let me scroll. Do you see any Sabine questions?
Honestly, my feed is so messed up. All it says is your mother-in-law is watching like 3,000 times on my feed.
Okay.
So, no, I don't.
Okay.
Seriously, I don't know how to get it off.
All right. Yeah, all right, Chris Plummer, I just went over that. Sorry, I'm just double-checking to make sure I didn't miss anything from the Sabine, because I'm going to roll over to Lake Fork and give a recap of what Lake Fork. Let me address this question real quick first. Stephen Hill wants to know, what's your thoughts about using a live scope? Fishing show last night that had an elite angler made a point that there is potentially a way to snag fish while using it. Do you think they should ban it, or does it diminish the way to catch fish in a tournament setting? You know, Stephen, was it a couple shows ago, Jeff, that we talked about it? Mm-hmm. I can't remember what show it was. We kind of did a whole episode on limitations on electronics and should there be, should there not be. Thrift and I both gave our full spill on that, so it should be on YouTube. If you go back,
2 or 3 shows
might
ago.
be 3 or 4 shows ago. If you go back on our YouTube, you can check that show out and kind of see our thoughts on the whole live scope forward-facing sonar deal. You know, I think there's pros and cons to it. I do absolutely believe that if there's a way to potentially take a jerkbait and get around a bunch of fish and see them on live scope and snag them. You know, if you consistently and the electronics will get good enough to where you can probably do that. You can take a big jerkbait and you could probably snag some big old bass. You know, electronics are getting so good that it may come to a point to where you have to treat forward-facing sonar like you're fishing for one on the bed, where it must be hooked inside the mouth.
I mean, just think 5 years. Think 5 years from now.
Right.
It's gonna be like watching 4K TV.
Right. I mean, you see what's happened in the past 5 years. 5 years from now, Jeff's right. I mean, where does it stop, and where do you limit it? Because, and we talked about that. I won't get back into that. We talked about that a lot on that show. I think eventually there has to be some kind of limitation, because it's like in every professional sport, there's limitations on the type of balls they can use, the type of bats they can use, the type of golf clubs they can use, the type of anything they can use, because it does give, it kind of takes away from the natural raw talent, and it puts more into the I'm gonna call it video gaming technology and things like that.
Even playing field for everybody is one thing, but when the technology is so far advanced,
right,
that it's literally like playing a video game.
Yeah,
then
right.
They'll have to make changes.
It's not the guy anymore that can skip a jig 40 foot under a dock, or learn how to catch one off the bed better than the rest of them, or go out and figure out how to find them out deep without, you know what I'm saying? Like there's somewhere. You know, there probably has to be some kind of limitation.
They'll get a point where it's too much, and
right.
they'll have to make some decisions, but it's not quite there yet.
Right.
It's not far, but not quite.
All right, so let's talk about Lake Fork. Branson Crisco, he said, where do you think we're at with the spawn in North Carolina? I feel like we're still pre-spawn. Branson, I got a couple answers to that question. I think, one, it depends on where you are. Lake James is a lot different than Lake Norman, for instance. I think everything has seemed behind this year, and here's my take on the spawn. Here's what I'm seeing, and what I've experienced over the years during the spawn. Okay, so what happens and what you see happen a lot is when you have a delayed spawn based on weather patterns and things like that, like Texas, for instance. Okay, Texas was a perfect example this year. Texas had one of the coldest winters they've ever had. I mean, since I've been alive. Am I right?
That's correct.
I mean, they had some of the worst weather over the past month than they've ever had. And that definitely delayed a lot of things down there. It kind of put a hold on a lot of things, especially the spawn. What happens when you have that kind of weather pattern is a lot of those fish, they hold up for so long, and then it just explodes. And you have a really fast, big spawn. When you get a couple warming trends and cooling trends and warming trends and cooling trends, and you can have a long drawn out spawn, but the trend this year so far from what I've seen is you're having really big spawns that will probably happen fairly fast. So it really depends on where you are. And the weather. But as far as North Carolina is concerned, I know there were fish spawning on Moss Lake over 2 to 3 weeks ago. There were fish spawning on Norman. You take a lake like Norman, like this is why this is such a complex question, because Lake Norman, there's fish that spawn down in Ramsey Creek in early March because you got a hot water discharge down there. There's fish that spawn mid-lake around Davidson late April. There's fish. It's just in different stages everywhere. So I would think that the majority of the spawn in a lot of the central North Carolina to eastern North Carolina lakes is probably done. I wouldn't say done. There's probably still a lot happening, but I would say it's more of a spawn post-spawn. I would say right here around the house it's more of a spawn post-spawn. I would say Lake James, Lake Hickory, places like that in the western part of the state might be of more of a pre-spawn spawn. I'm sure a lot of our viewers do fish a lot of these local lakes, and they can probably give you better insight than I can because I have not been on the water around the house here in 2 months. So I don't have the best up-to-date information. But that's my take on the spawn and the weather patterns and the way things have looked to me this year in the southeast. So we actually go to Neely Henry next week, and the spawn at Neely Henry, who knows? I mean, typically it's, Canterbury told me, he said typically it's going to be a shad spawn deal and 100% post spawn by this time, which is the first week of May is when we'll be there next week. And this year, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me for 30-40% of the lake to be on the bed and 40% to be done and 20% to still be pre-spawn. But I do think things will evolve very quickly just based on the weather patterns. So we will see. Lake Neely Henry will be very interesting, a lot of fun, never been there. But I didn't. I always look forward to going to a new lake. My dad's on here, and I got to address this. He said, "Did you take my shed?"
I was wondering what he was talking about.
He's talking about. So today, I took my youngest daughter up to our farm in Rutherford County here, and I took her for a little picnic. We went out we got a little pond on the property there. We took the kayak out. Dad's up there building a little dock for it. And Dad and myself and I got in our little tracker off-road, and I said myself and Ren, my youngest daughter.
We have our own language.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I don't know if the rest of them do, but you know what I'm saying. And we were riding around in the tracker, and we heard this thump, 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 thump. And Dad leaned out of the tracker, and he looked down at his tire, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." And I jumped out, and I walked around there, and we had ran over a deer shed, a deer antler.
Stuck in the wheel.
And it was stuck in the tire. And I pulled it out, of course, because I want to see how big it was. And then as soon as I did, the tire started going psst. So we rushed it back to the cabin. And by the way, Dad, your shed is in the back of your tracker. I did not steal it. So it's in the back of your tracker. But, yeah, we ran over a deer antler. And it punctured the tire. What are the chances, right? All right. Let's talk about Lake Fork. Lake Fork was Lake Fork. It is one of my top 2 or 3 favorite fisheries in the country. It is probably one of the top 2 or 3 fisheries in the country to target big fish. It is one of the top 2 or 3 fisheries in the country to throw big swim baits. We were there at a phenomenal time. We had a lot of fish spawning. We had a lot of fish still pre-spawn. We had quite a few fish post-spawn. So I felt like we were smack dab in the middle of the spawn while we were there. A lot of different things going on. One thing, I think there's several bites that evolved during the tournament that got better during the tournament. Lee Livesey, big shout out to Lee. Unbelievable performance the last day, man. That was sick. I mean, throwing down over 40
Some of
pounds.
those fish he was catching on top water were awesome.
Dude, it was insane. I mean, you're talking about a guy who caught 42 pounds the last day, dude. 42 pounds, okay? I mean, that happens like once every 15 years in our sport. And that was an unbelievable performance, and big shout-out to Lee, man. That was awesome. And Lee's a heck of a fisherman. And he is a full-time guide on that lake. And everybody's like, well, I've heard people say this before, and I can't stand it when I say this because, well, he should win because he's got some experience there. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. Because at that level, all those guys are good. Lee, actually, that came around to bite him one time when we were there in the past with an elite tournament. Home lake jinx, you hear it all the time. The problem with it being your home lake, you're really at more of a disadvantage sometimes than you are at an advantage. And the reason is because you just know too much stuff. And when you ride by these places during a tournament, you have this urge to go over there and try something that worked 3 years ago because you caught a 10-pounder over there or whatever it was. I'm sure Lee's caught a 10-pounder probably in 100 different locations on that lake. So I could imagine what was going through his mind. So big shout-out to him because he was able to manage his home lake unbelievably. I mean, he did it flawlessly all week. He fished flawlessly and had a great game plan going in, and it paid off for him. So big shout-out to Lee. I know my roommates and myself, we really got caught up in the sight fishing game. We all love to do it. There's a ton of fish on the bed. I ended up weighing, I believe, 13 out of the 15 fish that I weighed in sight fishing. Somebody asked earlier about glide baits. Yes, I did throw some glide baits, and the glide bait that I threw down there that worked best for me, which I didn't catch very many on it, I probably didn't give it enough time, to be honest with you. I got so wrapped up in the sight fishing game. I threw the tater hog, custom tater hog. Everybody knows Tater Hog. That's from around here. Tater Hog makes some of the best. Matt McBee's his name, but he goes by Tater. Tater Hog, custom swim baits. Look him up. I threw the Hogfather Jr. and I threw the Closer. Those are the two glide baits that I threw. The Hogfather Jr. got 2 really key bites for me during the event. Got a couple nice bites for me in practice. I couldn't get many bites on it. I do think that bite got better probably on day 3 and day 4 of our event. But the one thing I did on day 2 was shortened based on the storms that were projected to come in that afternoon, and it was nasty, really nasty storm cell that came in later that afternoon. It actually didn't end up hitting right there at weigh-in, but it wasn't far off, and I do think that was a right call by Bass. But I was doing it. I was the last flight, and I was doing it 2:40, so they shortened our day by about an hour and 20 minutes, and it was 2:34. I was about a mile and a half, 2 miles from check-in. And I told my judge, my marshal, it was a catch, weigh, and release format. Anybody that follow Lake Fork know it's a catch, weigh, and release format because it's a slot lake. You can't keep anything between 16 and 24 inches in any normal tournament down there. We could weigh them. Our judge would record them, send them into Bass Track, and then we would release the fish immediately. If you caught one over 24 inches, you were allowed to bring one in for the weigh-in.
Yeah, one over.
Now, it's 2:34. I'm doing it 2:40, day 2. I've got 15 pounds, 4 ounces is my limit, which is relatively small for fork. But that day, it wasn't terrible because it was a shortened day. I didn't know it at the time because I asked my judge when we checked in would I have made it without this fish. But I told him, I said, last cast. So we got to go. 2:34. I made the cast with the old Tater Hog, Hogfather Jr., halfway back to the boat on that glide, I hooked one. It jumped. I said, biggin. I said, get the scales out. We got to weigh this fish, record it, and go. I told him I had never caught a fish on the last cast in a tournament that mattered. I've caught a lot of fish on the last cast in tournaments, but not one that actually mattered or called. We weighed the fish. It was a 3-pound call. We ran in. I got in at 2:39 and some change. So I was in 45 seconds with 45 seconds to spare. That fish, unofficially at the time, moved me from 45th to 26th place. So that goes back to Iconelli's old saying, never give up, always push it to the last minute. But the last cast of the day, I caught a 5, whatever it was a 3-pound call, it was a 5-something. And that was definitely a key fish, and that was on a glide bait. That was on the Hogfather Jr. Let me scroll on down because we probably got some questions. about the glide baits and things like that. I know that, yeah, Branson, that's right. He said he watches me on Scott's YouTube. He said they should call me the Snack Master. But the candy kid or something is what they started, because I always show up with a big bag of candy. But it's all the McCoy and that crew that ends up eating most of the candy. Jake's pretty good. He can make some candy disappear real quick too. But yeah, man, I always got to show up with some snacks, some good snacks. And shout out to my judge on the first day. I believe it was my first day marshal at Lake Fork. He showed up in the boat, and he must have knew me, because he had a big old bag of peppered deer jerky and a giant homemade summer sausage, venison summer sausage. And I ate like 3/4 of all that the first day of the tournament. Had a little bit left the second day. Might have been my second day marshal. But anyway, thanks again to him for bringing that. That was an awesome treat, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, so Lake Fork, sight fishing was my main game plan for all 3 days there. Did weigh in a couple fish on the glide bait, but overall it was a sight fishing fest. There was one thing I learned at the end of the event is I had a tough time a little bit. I tried to catch them just fishing at Fork. I didn't do very well in practice, but I think that bite on the points and the things like that you saw a lot of the guys doing, they weren't getting a ton of bites. Patrick Walters caught quite a few, I think, live scoping in the timber with a jerk bait and things like that. But other than that, the point bites seemed to get better and better each day as the tournament progressed, and I regret not giving that more time during the event. There were some really big fish, post-spawn and pre-spawn, excuse me, to be caught during the event on some of those points and things like that. I did find a shad spawn in practice 2 or 3 different places, and I never found any bass on them. And I've seen that a couple times in the past and usually when I see that, what's happening is there's just so many fish on the bank and so many fish that aren't recovered yet. They just haven't found them. They just haven't got to them yet. So there were a few guys that caught some shad spawn fish, but I know several guys that were in the same boat as me, and they just couldn't catch them good just fishing, or they found some shad spawns with no bass on them, or whatever the case was. So they reverted back to sight fishing. Only 2 guys that I know of actually made the top 10 strictly sight fishing. I believe that was Austin Felix and Chris Johnston. And if I'm not mistaken, they ended up finishing 9th and 10th.
Yeah.
So
say it didn't hold up.
It didn't hold up for 4 days. Very rarely does a sight fishing guy dedicate 4 days to sight fishing and ends up walking away with the title. I don't ever remember that happening in a professional event that I know of. Typically, and even if he weighed in 3 fish that weren't sight fishing, you can't say he won that tournament exclusively sight fishing, because he didn't. Let's see. Let's get Ryan Sowers wants to know if we're ever going to see a Shadbird T-shirt. We'll have to get it. May have to get after that, Jeff.
Possibly. I may or may not have a pretty sweet piece of equipment on the way that will get us all the T-shirts we need.
Nice. Keith Wood said, speaking of a good call from Bass, what do you think about the shotgun start that was done at the Open last weekend? I had no idea that happened.
I neither.
When you say shotgun start, are you saying that they...
Like a golf tournament shotgun
like
start?
Blew a horn and 200-something boats took off at the same time?
Yeah, please explain.
If that's the case, explain what happened, because I'm completely oblivious to that. I mean, we were fishing and whatnot, but I'm completely oblivious to what happened there. That's interesting. Very interesting. Tater Hog Custom Lures, guys. Just Google it and get you straight to his website. Awesome glide baits. Some of the best homemade glide baits out there. Let's see. I've got a good map card for Neely Henry.
Everybody
Thanks, Mike.
took off at the same time.
I had no idea that even happened.
I'd like to see some footage of that.
Wow. Yeah. I wonder if somebody videoed that.
That'd be awesome.
I've never heard of that happening before. So I would assume that if Bass made that call, they had a really good reason to do that. So if anybody knows, why did they do a shotgun start with 200 boats? Where was that also? Like, was that... So I was assuming that was... Oh, Meade. Meade? Was that at Meade, guys? Maybe not.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what they're saying.
Huh.
With high winds.
Okay. So yeah, I'm a little confused there. I'm a little bit confused there. I had no idea that happened, but I'm going to check that out. There's probably got to be several videos on YouTube with this shotgun
I'm getting
start.
ready to YouTube it right now. So I'm going to watch it if I can.
You gonna look it up? Yes. You gonna look it up? That's right, Kenneth. I could see the next thing being live image from forward-facing sonar, projected onto your glasses and transducer aimed by head movement. I could definitely see that. All right, Richard Bird wants to know, what's your favorite Senko color all year long besides solid green pumpkin? Well, my favorite Senko color, it's a lunker stick called Leech. You said besides solid green pumpkin. That's really like the only one that I throw. So, I'll go to a black and blue or a June bug or something like that. I do in clear water situations. I really like a baby bass color. I love a baby bass color or a watermelon red. We have a watermelon red flake with the lunker stick that I really like in clear water situations. It'll catch them in just about any clear water situations. Let's see. I'm gonna stroll back here and try to. So Thomas Roach said he was shocked that the big one's caught on top midday at Lake Fork. So Thomas, one thing about a topwater bite is it's an all day thing, and a lot of people always thought, and I did when I was younger, growing up, thinking topwater's first thing in the morning, late in the evening. That's 100% not accurate. Some of the biggest fish in the lake will bite a topwater bait. I've caught giants on frogs. I've caught giants on walking baits. And you saw it firsthand what Lee Livesey did down there on the final day. I mean, caught a 9 and like an 8.15, on a big walking bait, big spook bait. That point bite was pretty amazing. That's probably some of the best live coverage in professional fishing I've ever watched and witnessed in my life. I was, Lee's performance on the final day. And poor Patrick, you got to feel a little bit bad for Patrick, who was ahead of Lee in the standings going into day 4, and had a 30-something pound day. And you got to feel pretty good about that going in with 30-something pounds, and knowing you were, you felt like going out. I got to crack 30 to have a shot today, and then you get beat by 10 pounds. I mean, the good thing for Patrick is he didn't lose by an ounce. Lee just flat out won that tournament. He's
a double member of the Century Club, which is pretty cool in a short amount of time.
Patrick is.
Yes.
Correct. Yes, he broke 100 pounds in October, which was for me just unimaginable. I mean, that was a tough event, but he did a phenomenal job in winning that event with over 100 pounds in October. So very interesting. Century Club 2 times in 4 months or 5 months or whatever it was. Let's see. BFL on Smith Lake this weekend. What's it going to take to win? Eli's talking about Smith Lake. I guess that's Smith Lake, Alabama, not Smith Mountain in Virginia. I'm just going to throw it out there and say 17 pounds. 17-10. That's a good bag on Smith anytime, but it's April. I'm sure the fish are biting well down there. There's probably some herring spawn bites going on. I think that'll be a great event to fish. Should be a lot of fish caught. I'm going to throw it out there and just say 17 something. Might take more, but I'm just 17-10. Let's throw it out there. Now, if I'm right, I'm going to look like a genius. But if it takes 22, I'm going to look like an idiot. All right, so what time are we coming up on, Jeff? Don't forget, y'all, big giveaway tonight.
7:43.
7:43. We got about 15 minutes. Big giveaway tonight. Angler's Choice giveaway shirt and hat. As usual, but we got a big lunker hunt giveaway. We got the fetches. I threw it around at Fork quite a bit. We've got the bait shifters, and we've got the turbines, the lunker hunt turbines, the new Clack and Buzz bait that we came out with last year. So there's all your lunker hunt stuff and the shirt and the hat. So we're going to give that away at the end of the show. Got a great trivia question for anybody that wasn't on at the beginning of the show. The answer to the trivia question. Jeff came up with the answer. If it's wrong, it's 100% not my fault. Y'all thought I was going to give you the answer, but I'm not. So let's see. Michael Kate said he's got some little gems for y'all that he made. He said, Jeff, text DM the address. I'll send them to y'all. Well, that was mighty nice of Michael. We'll try to get that information over to you, Michael. Let's see here. All right, get down. Let's get down here. Richard Bird said, do you think that bass will ever come back to Lake Townsend in Greensboro? Richard, I'm ashamed to say I never knew they went there. Lake Townsend, it's a fairly small lake if I'm not mistaken, so I doubt that they would have a full Elite Series event there. They could end up having a Classic or something in that area. I talked to Bass, and I've encouraged them. And, of course, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that have to happen for a Classic or an Elite event to take place. But Raleigh, North Carolina, and Charlotte, I think, are two cities that have all the facilities that are needed. But they have to want it. They have to, they have to make everything work. And I think Charlotte, you could go to several surrounding lakes for a Classic. I remember the '04 Classic, watching it when I was young, man. Going to that event, it was huge. The crowds were amazing. The fishing was, it was Lake Wiley, so it's not giant bags, but that's when the Classics were in late summer. That's the one Takahiro won in the last 5 minutes. A lot of fun, a lot of fans, a lot of people, great expo. I think Charlotte would be a great host. You could fish Norman, you could fish Wiley, you could fish several of the surrounding lakes. Raleigh would be a phenomenal host. And those are really only the two cities in North Carolina that have the facilities to it's not just the Classic, but it's the expo that people have to realize how big that expo has gotten over the years. It's the largest fishing expo in the world, and it takes a lot to put that expo on, a lot. So it just keeps getting bigger and bigger too. So they're limited on where they can go and how they can do that. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see a Classic in North Carolina over the next 4 or 5 years. But we'll see. That's yet to be determined. Let's see. All right. LTF Challenge in June, what's it going to take to win? Oh, that's Chris Lindahl. So Chris, nobody knows that. If nobody knows who Chris is, he's the one that won the fishing trip with Brian and myself, and he's bringing a friend, if I'm not mistaken.
We may or may not have some more special guests attending.
Oh, okay. So we won't announce that yet, but there may be another special guest. We're going to definitely have some kind of little challenge in that fishing trip, Chris. We don't know what it will be yet because we don't know where it's going to be yet. So I don't know what it's going to take to win until we figure out where it's going to be. We're going to try to go wherever we can have the most fun, here locally, of course. But Norman in June, probably go out and catch a lot of fish and have a good time. So Norman may be right there at the top of the list. We'll see.
It's a high probability it'll be at Norman.
High probability it could be at Lake Norman.
I can tell you where it won't be.
Yeah, I can tell you where it won't be. That's right. Matt Newman want to know if I killed any turkeys this year. Well, Matt, we did. So I was home for 6 days.
This is what you call an extended show. We'll be going to 9:47 tonight.
I was home.
Somebody brought up turkeys.
If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, Matt, you've probably seen the pictures. But we dropped pictures. I was home for 5 days. We went turkey hunting 5 times. I went out. I killed one. I got my limit in North Carolina, which is 2 birds per person. I took my best friend, Brian Shuford, and got him his first longbeard, and I took my neighbor and good friend Kyle Bell and got him a longbeard. So, and that was his second longbeard, if I'm not mistaken. So we killed 4 birds the week I was home. Had a great week. May get to go 1 or 2 more times tops, but we leave Sunday again to head back out to Neely Henry and get back on the road again. So turkey season's been short and sweet this year. It'll go out the Saturday of Neely Henry. So maybe I'll get in another hunt or 2 this week before I leave. Maybe not, but if not, it's been a great season. So been a lot of fun. That's all the turkey hunting I'm going to talk because I get yelled at when I do. Thrift's not here though.
That's pretty good.
Thrift's not here. We could talk turkey. John Long said, "Sounds like the rule." So anybody. That's right. Okay, so John Long, let me clarify that. So John Long has a great point. He said, sounds like the rule. So in the Lake Fork event, it's catch, weigh, release. The rule is that you cannot catch the same bedding bass twice in the same tournament day. But you were allowed to catch that fish the next day. Reason being you couldn't catch it the same day. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons behind that, but what happened during the event, which there's no, this is out of Bass's control. A lot of those fish not only got caught the second and third day, potentially by the same guy, but they got caught 2 or 3 times during the day by 2 or 3 different competitors. Now, each time the fish was caught, obviously it became more and more difficult to catch. There was a fish that I started on day 1 at Lake Fork. I was boat 10. It was a real easy fish. I knew it'd bite first or second flip. I ran in there. Cody Holland, another Elite Series pro, ran in there right behind me, and he sat down, and I said, I bet he's trying to go to this fish too. And, of course, I beat him to the fish because I was a higher boat number. And I sat down, and I catch it on the second cast, and it weighed 3 pounds, 15 ounces. It was basically right at 4 pounds. I figured it for a 4-pounder, and it was real easy, and it was close to take off, so I ran in there and caught it. Well, Cody watched me catch it. He said, hey, man, what did it weigh? And I told him 315. I said, you wanted to start on this one? He said, yeah, I did. I said, well, you probably come back and catch it later, and we sitting there chatting. He came back at 1-something and caught that fish. And it weighed 4.1 on his scale. So, I mean, it could have ate a brim or something during the day. Well, I posted a video of that fish on my social media. John Cox responded to my social media page. He said, hey, I caught that fish too. So there were 3 of us that caught that same fish on day 1, and it weighed different on all of our scales. So betting a spawn tournament at Lake Fork with scales and that rule makes it a little bit weird. I'm not going to lie. And the reason is because if I would have caught that fish, it would have gone on my live well. Nobody else would have ever caught it. Okay? It changes the way you have to play that game at that specific tournament. I caught a 4-pounder on day 3 that I caught on day 1. And, people can say what they want, but I'm a fool for not doing it. I'd be an idiot for not doing it. That's the rules of that event. You have to play the game the way the rules are written, and you have to play them to where you think you can come out with the best finish. So, am I a fan of that specific type tournament and rule? Not necessarily, because like I said, if Jeff would have beat me to that fish and he would have caught it, I would have never had the chance to catch it, and that's the way it typically is in every other tournament we fish, but not that specific event. So very interesting tournament in the way you have to adjust and rotate through your fish and figure out how to manage your fish, and
especially there with so many fish.
Right, correct.
Everywhere.
Correct.
Big ones.
Big ones everywhere. Yeah, you can't catch the same bedding bass in the same day. So you could catch it the next day, but you could catch it twice in the same day. All right, High Rock, CBC Saturday. Tyler Ward, what's up, Tyler? He said, what weight will it take to win? CBC Saturday at High Rock. Oh, wow, it always takes in the 20s to win at High Rock. I have no idea, but I'm just saying the 20s. 20s, 24, 24, 3, 22, 7. What do you say, Jeff?
21.9.
21.9. I said 22.7. Ryan wants to know if you turkey hunt.
I've been turkey hunting once, about 10 years ago.
So that's a no.
I used to hunt all the time.
Jeff has been so wrapped up with. I got to defend Jeff because I've watched how much you've been working with this LunkerTex deal. And obviously it's paying off, but LunkerTex is if you haven't signed up for LunkerTex, guys, you need to make sure to do it. It's free to sign up. The deals that he runs on this platform are unbelievable. It saves you 30 to 60% off retail on every single deal. You get free shipping. You get some, unbelievable deals out there. It's something different every day, and it's the easiest and most convenient way to get a great deal on fishing tackle in our entire industry. You simply respond with a number. You simply text back with a number.
It's pretty easy.
Easiest thing you've ever done.
It's pretty easy.
And if you don't have the link, we can drop the link. You can go to my Instagram, hit the link on my Instagram profile, sign up. It's free to sign up. So just get signed up as soon as you can, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about.
Because those Lunker Hut turbines are coming down the pipe pretty quick. It's going to be a sweet deal on those.
Yep. Spencer, I can't wait. We will see you at Gunnersville in a couple weeks. Looking forward to that. Ryan said it sounds like we need to get you on a turkey. I've offered taking deer hunting and turkey hunting. I'm telling you, man, this guy's working like 24/7 right now on this LunkerTex deal. If y'all could see in this warehouse right here and what's going on in that warehouse with the inventory and the shipping and the boxes and the labels and he's rocking and rolling, dude. Rocking and rolling. Ryan Sowers wants to know if LunkerTex is a webpage. Can you put the link in the feed?
Yeah, it's just lunkertex.com.
Yeah, just go to lunkertex.com, Ryan. You'll see what we're talking about. Lunkertex.com, all one word. Very, very easy to sign up. All right. Chris said he loves the LunkerTex text, but they are dangerous.
They are. That's some pretty good deals.
They're dangerous because they're phenomenal deals, and it's so easy to buy because
we're starting to get more stuff too because the tackle industry got a little upside down there for a while, and it's still coming out of it. So it's super hard to get.
We think
stuff.
it flattened out though, and it should be on the up and up. Hopefully, the next 3 to 4 months. Hopefully, the next 3 to 4 months.
We'll start seeing more and more deals and better deals, and it'll be fun.
All right, we coming up on the hour.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right. Any more? See, there's Tyler Ward. Lunkertex is awesome. Great work, Jeff.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate you.
Has Tyler? We know Tyler. We know Tyler's ordered. Tyler ordered anything?
Oh, I guarantee it. I see his name all the time.
Tyler's ordering. He's ordering
for sure.
But you know, if it's something you don't want, just don't respond. It's that easy. If it's something you want, you better respond quick because these deals are selling out. I mean, they are selling out. You've had some sell out in under a minute, under 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, they sell out pretty fast.
And depending on how many bundles, you know, you don't never know. It depends on the inventory. You know, we could send a 150 bundle deal or a 200 bundle deal
or 500-600.
Yeah, or 500 or 600 bundle deal. So you just don't know. It depends on what we have. Ryan, it's all tackle, man. It's all baits, lures. It's all tackle.
We've done a few hat deals here and there, which did really well. Actually, we'll start getting more into that. We are set up to do apparel. When you sign up, you can put your sizes and things in. We haven't got much into apparel yet, but we do have that capability. But mostly lures.
Yep.
For now.
Yep, and a lot of good stuff. I mean, some of the brands, obviously Lunker Hunt, Missile Baits, War Eagle, Booyah, Strike King. I mean, I could name them all, but
pretty much
there's gobs and gobs. Yeah, pretty much everything. Yeah, we're lined up with pretty much all the major brands in the industry. We've done a lot of big bite bait deals. We've done a lot of, just all kind of stuff. All kind of stuff. Apparel is an option. It gets a little tricky because of the sizing and things like that, but. Maybe that'll happen in the future.
Sunglasses, yeah, we did some John Cruz sunglasses. Did a couple, which are really good deal. They're good glasses too.
I did not know y'all did a glass deal.
We've done 3 or 4 of them, and probably about to do another one. They sell out super fast though.
I like that, Matt. He said new house rule. Every time his wife orders clothes, he orders fishing tackle. Needless to say, I've got a stockpile of tackle. I like it. I like the rule. Yep, but if you have not, guys, do yourself a favor, sign up for Lunkertex. It's very simple to sign up, and I promise you won't regret it. All right, let's get to our trivia question. Again, the trivia question giveaway tonight. We've got all kinds of Lunker Hunt stuff. We've got the fetches. We've got the shifters, the bait shifters, several different colors, 4 different colors actually. We've got 3 of the Lunker Hunt turbine buzz baits that we're giving away. And we've got a hat from Angler's Choice and a shirt compliments of Angler's Choice. We'll get your size and all. So whoever wins, be sure to send us a message on our Facebook page, on the Let's Talk Fish Facebook page, with your size shirt that you wear and your shipping information. We've had a couple winners, not very often, because typically when somebody wins free stuff, they respond pretty quickly with their address. But we have had a couple that never sent that information, and obviously we just carry that over to another giveaway. But be sure to send us a message on our Facebook page with your shipping information and the size shirt that you wear. All right, you ready, Jeff?
You're gonna have to help me because my feed is just telling me who all's watching the whole time.
All right, so, I'll help you. I'll just announce the winner.
Whoever.
All right,
you see it or I see it, we'll call it and we'll go from there.
All right, this one's a little tricky, but we thought it's a great question because the last 2 tournaments we've been to with the elites obviously have been exact opposite ends of the spectrum. You got the Sabine River and you've got Lake Fork. Okay, Lake Fork, big bass factory, 100+ pounds to win every time we go there, just unbelievable. Sabine River, that's really all I need to say. Sabine River, 6-pound limits, 8-pound limits are good, 6-pound limits are average. Basically you catch 15 pounds in a 1-day tournament there, you smashed them. So here we go. This is the trivia question. I need to know what the difference was in the winning weight at Lake Fork for 4 days, the cumulative winning weight at Lake Fork, and the winning weight at the Sabine River. Okay, that's the 4-day totals. I need to know the difference, what the difference was. Okay, so
in pounds. In ounces.
Just like we weigh. Like we weigh in the tournament. In pounds and ounces. Don't give me some weird answer. Make me pull out my calculator.
I don't want to do math. Just 2 numbers.
David Wilder said he never received his gift he won. Send us a message and let us know what that was, David.
Let us know. And if we don't have what it was, then I promise you, I have enough stuff in this building to make you happy.
Yeah, our apologies. If something got sidetracked there and it didn't make it or something happened, you let us know what it was. We can probably look back on our feed.
You better be watching this. Cause
I'm watching. I'm watching. In pounds and ounces, the exact difference.
Oh, never mind. I got it.
Now, Jeff calculated this, okay? So if it's...
I calculated because somebody couldn't.
If it's wrong, it's on
watch.
Jeff. I'm watching. But in pounds and ounces, I need to know, at least they already know what to do. Like, I can tell they're doing math right now because of the answers we're getting.
Yeah.
Guys, it'll be a miracle if you guess this. You're probably going to have to actually calculate it. Buddy Black just now got on. He said Buddy Black is watching. He's a friend of mine. Buddy, you're not eligible for the trivia question because we don't roll like that. He just jumped on for the trivia question.
I got it.
You got an answer?
Yep, Ernie Wallace is the first one I saw.
What's the answer?
68.6.
68 pounds, 6 ounces. 68 pounds, 6 ounces. All right, now, before we go any further, Ernie Wallace, you the man. Congratulations, Ernie. Before we go any further, tell them how you calculated this answer, Jeff. Tell them how you calculated
first of
the
all,
answer.
class, somebody couldn't
You're
figure
sure
it
this
out.
isn't 69.6, right? Because 68.6 is what.
First of all, I converted everything to ounces.
Okay, so we took 112 pounds, 5 ounces, and converted that to straight ounces, okay?
Yep.
Which is 1,797 ounces.
Yes.
Then we took 43.15,
Yes.
which was the winning weight at the Sabine.
That's correct.
And converted that to ounces, which
That is also correct.
which was 703 ounces.
That's correct.
We subtracted the difference and divided by what?
16.
And came up with
68.375.
68.375.
Which sent him in a tailspin.
Which
'cause
sent me
he
in a
couldn't
tailspin.
Figure out the .375.
So then Jeff converted the .375 to 6 ounces. So it is 68 pounds, 6 ounces, 68.6. I know you're working, buddy. I'm just giving you a hard time. Buddy's a city police officer here over in Kings Mountain. We do appreciate him and all the other police officers out there working. But it is kind of odd he jumped on right when the trivia question started. All right. I got to give him a little bit of crap. So congrats to Ernie. You know, this is the bad thing about my feed. I still haven't seen Ernie's answer, but I know it's on your feed. So it never even came through on my phone.
It came through on
which is
both my
crazy.
feeds first.
Got you. So Ernie Wallace, 68 pounds, 6 ounces. That is the correct answer.
If it's not right, it's
Ernie's-
still 68.6.
Ernie's one before. We probably have all his shipping information, I'm sure.
I'm not shipping it to him. I'm taking it to him next
Okay.
weekend.
Size shirt,
I'm going to
Ernie.
bring it to you next week.
Well, we got to ship the
Oh, we
shirt.
gotta ship
We
the
got to
shirt.
ship the shirt and hat from Angler's Choice. Size shirt, Ernie. I'm guessing XL, but let us know if it's any bigger or smaller than that.
So he did the math too. Like, that's fast math. He Googled it.
Who did it?
Ernie did the math too.
Okay, Clarence Belcher, 68.375. That's correct.
Yep.
You're not the winner, Clarence, but that's the correct answer. So, all right, guys and gals, we appreciate everybody tuning in. We had a good show. We had around 150, 160 viewers. A lot of good interaction, and congrats to Ernie for the win. I don't know. I cannot sit here and tell y'all, and I apologize for that, when we will be back in studio. I'll be at Neely Henry next week. Brian is headed to Lake Travis as we speak. He's probably there now, actually. He started practice maybe today or tomorrow. Good luck to Thrift down there at the BPT event at Lake Travis. And I will leave Sunday to head down to Neely Henry. Be on the lookout for Scott Martin's YouTube channel to drop the Lake Fork episode tomorrow. So he's dropped the travel vlog, he's dropped the practice video, but the actual tournament video, which should have a bunch of catches from Canterbury, myself, and Scott, should be a very entertaining video because of there was a lot of big fish caught. So it was a lot of fun, and be on the lookout for that. I believe it's going to drop tomorrow. So y'all stay tuned for the next Let's Talk Fish episode. I wish I could tell you when it's going to be. Hopefully the week between Neely Henry and Gunnersville. So a week from next Tuesday, I hope we can get in the studio and give you all a wrap up. Hopefully Thrift's in town. Hopefully it will work out. But guys, gals, thanks again for tuning in. When we can't go fishing, Jeff, what are we going to do?
We're going to sit right here and talk fish.
See y'all.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Fish. Visit our private Facebook group to continue the conversation, post your questions, and talk with other fellow anglers at facebook.com/groups/Let's Talk Fish. Follow us on Instagram at Let's Talk Fish Official and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more exclusive content. Join us again next episode for more actionable tips, tactics, and techniques directly from the pros. And remember, when we can't go fishing, we're going to sit right here and talk fish.